What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some initial details about Pathfinder, the Dragon's Demand, a planned 2e adventure in the Pathfinder universe, a CRPG to be specific, coming from Ossian Studios, which is set to launch its Kickstarter campaign here in a few days on the 24th, and I wanted to share a bunch of those details after I myself got them from the studio themselves. But right at the beginning of the video, I want to just make a very clear mention that I do not endorse Kickstarter campaigns. If you want to back that, you've got to figure that out all on your own. Kickstarters are inherently very volatile, and while I plan on backing this one for myself, giving an official recommendation is simply not something I would be willing to do there. And this video is just intended to convey information, as I do love Pathfinder. So let's get into it. As I mentioned, a CRPG using the Pathfinder 2e rule set, with the, I would say, catch being that the game is going for a visual art style of miniatures in a more tabletop-oriented setting, but you can still expect things like side quests, companion quests, romances, exploration, etc. Now, the story itself does follow an adventure path, known also as the Dragon's Demand, which is a 1e adventure from all the way back in 2013 that they are converting to 2nd edition and expanding upon. Much in the way we've seen with other Pathfinder CRPGs, while there is an established story, etc., they are planning to, of course, add and change a few things here and there. In particular, though, they plan on adding side quests and backgrounds for the other NPCs you can meet or party members, etc. As such, the game will center around the town of Belhaim, the Dragonfen, and the Verduran Forest, which I'm probably butchering. Now, it probably goes without saying given the minis, but this is, of course, a turn-based CRPG, though there are a few other details worth mentioning. Now, they are aiming for about 30 hours worth of content, professional voice acting, character creation, etc. So, when it comes to creating your character, there's going to be 7 ancestries or races available, 16 classes, and 30 backgrounds. The classes are going to be the Alchemist, Barbarian, Bard, Champion, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Investigator, Monk, Oracle, Ranger, Rogue, Sorcerer, Swashbuckler, Witch, and Wizard. And when you're playing as those classes, you'll be able to play as either a Dwarf, Elf, Gnome, Goblin, Halfling, Human, or an Orc, though I imagine most people will be excited about the Goblin one there in particular. Now, while the game is utilizing minis, they do seem to be focusing still on the, I would say, visual representation of those minis quite a bit, with things like armor and weapons actually changing the appearance of said minis. So while it might initially be a bit odd to see minis participating in combat and maybe not necessarily moving much, I think saving that production money on animation works to make that happen does potentially free them up to focus more on things like the implementation of the 2e rule set into an engine, etc. So I'm not entirely sold on it yet, but I think it has potential to be interesting. It kind of just depends on how it looks when I've actually got my hands on it. So there is that. Now, I said there wasn't going to be much movement, but they did mention in their press release that the game will have adaptive poses, and I'm not sure if that means the minis change position depending on what's going on in combat, or if that's merely a character creation thing where you set the basic pose. But we shall see. Now, with the Kickstarter looming, I would say that's really about everything there is to know about the current state of the game and the plans and whatnot, and things that they've shared with me and publicly. Though I did just remember the level cap is going to be 8, as the original adventure was a level 1 through 7 adventure, I believe. But from there, let's talk a little bit about the studio behind this project, Ossian Studios. Now, if you followed the channel religiously, you may have just heard me mention them a few times here and there, mostly because they have published some modules for things like Neverwinter Nights 1 and 2. And it looks like this time around they're aiming a little bit higher with this big Pathfinder CRPG, which looks to be a pretty big step up for them, and we will simply have to wait and see how it pans out. Now, that is pretty much everything to know right this second, though I will of course be keeping an eye on this one, and I hope it winds up being successful. I'm all for more Pathfinder video games, especially CRPGs, but currently, if the project is successful and more information comes out, or I have something more substantial to show you detail-wise, we will be circling back to this one, hopefully sooner rather than later. But that is pretty much going to do it for today. I certainly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.